a couple of phone calls and emails later, I was like talking to like the president of the American Red Cross, and he was like, "Yeah, like you can use the parking lot, like whatever. We love helping the community." And I was like, "Let's go."
Dude.
He's in a Zoom meeting right now, so
Zoom
I was
in
like, "You
all
got to
in the
get out of my
house.
room."
Yeah. Well, I think we're all ready to rock officially if you are, my friend.
Yeah, I think I'm good to go.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm sitting down with one of the best dressed homies in the hardcore space, Mr. Errick Easterday. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thanks for the compliment.
Oh, of course. I'm trying to add in these spicy little intros for people, and I have a separate point to to joke on your peanut nickname, but that will be later in the episode. For the few people at home who are watching or listening who might not know who you are, can you just intro what you do in hardcore and how you would best be known,
Oh,
and
man.
where you're based?
Okay. Well, my name is Eric, obviously. I live in Louisville, Kentucky right now. I'm originally from Blackford County, Indiana, Hartford City, the tiniest town in the middle of a cornfield. But I don't know. I've just been playing music and taking photos of music mostly since I was in high school, and now I guess I'm known for taking 1 million pictures at every hardcore show that I could possibly get to, uh, and doing some music videos now, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this just to pump your tires. Like I truly have been a fan of Eric's work since the get. As soon as we either cross paths algorithmically or what have you. But I'm super excited to have you on to chat just creativity and hardcore and some of the recent work that you've done. Before we get super deep into it, we got to do our scoped exposure bev check. So I had a Lacroix just before on another podcast, but I need a little caffeine boost, so I'm just drinking some regular old chai tea with some oat milk.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, what about you?
Let's see. I got my Ale 8 ginger ale, the Kentucky OG.
Oh, okay. See,
Oh yeah,
this is why I'm doing these segments because I want people to rep their local bevs or their rare finds that they found at the weird farmers market. So
yeah.
no, that's
My entire drink intake is just water, Ale 8, and Lacroix. So,
what's your go-to Lacroix flavor?
oh man, this summer I found the pastique flavor, the watermelon one,
Oh,
and it is
okay.
like miles beyond every other flavor.
I mainly ask because we got Lacroix like pretty recently. I want to say at the
Mhm.
beginning of this year. And originally it was like lime, um, like grapefruit, and like raz cranberry. There was only
Mhm.
like 3 or 4 flavors, and now we have a little like they're opening up the gates a little bit more. But you guys have, we only get maybe 50% of the flavors for lots of the bevs that I see down
Gotcha.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, we have like a local. I don't think it's local. It's like a chain grocery store, and they have like a Dr. Pepper flavor, and it is crazy.
A
That's also one of my
LaCroix
favorites.
Dr. Pepper flavor? Wow.
Yeah, but it's like not Lacroix. It's like just like
It's
it's called
something
like
else.
Doctor something sparkling water.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. If there's any type of sponsorship that I'm trying to get for this podcast, it's any bevs of any kind, energy drinks, sparkling water. So I'm just trying to put that into the ethos. Straight up like cold emailed people being like, "Hey, can your organic energy drink sponsor my hardcore podcast?" And then I don't hear back. So hopefully
Yeah.
eventually.
Like, what's that?
Yeah, what's that? What's hardcore? So Eric, I'm a huge believer in context as far as how people got into just this strange subculture of heavy music. So can you kind of give me the origin story for you as far as how you found out about just heavier music in general, and what propelled you on that path to get to where we are right now?
Oh man. Okay. So Spark Notes version. Uh, my mom, when I was a kid, she was always into like Metallica and like Stone Temple Pilots and like AC/DC, and like the Offspring. Um, and like when I was a little kid, she would like go to these concerts, especially like Metallica stuff. Um, and so like I was kind of exposed to like metal and like hard rock, I guess, as a kid. And she would always just like pass me on her CDs, like here and there. She'd be like, I don't really listen to this one anymore. You can try it out or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, which was sick because it's like that's how I found like Blink 182 and like the used and just like random stuff. She would just like get CDs from her friends or like in the mail or whatever. And she'd be like, I don't really like this here, you can have it.
Yeah.
um and then like probably like fifth grade, um, we had a neighbor that my mom was friends with, and her son was like a college kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like one day he was just like, "You ever heard of screamo?" And I was like, "Man, I don't know, like disturbed screams. Sometimes I hear them on the radio." And then he showed me like the Devil Wears Prada and like Under Oath and stuff like that. And I think it was just this like slow build. My neighbors behind me, like across the alley, uh, they were like kids in high school, and I was just like like a tiny fifth grade kid.
Mhm.
And they had like a Christian metalcore band, and they would like practice in the garage. And I remember like one winter it was like freezing, but I like wanted to hear them play music, and I would just like stand outside of their garage with like 10 layers of coats on,
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, like just trying to listen and be like, "Whoa, this is crazy! Like I've never heard anything like this before."
Yeah.
Uh,
Door closed. You're just like kind of eavesdropping
yeah, I'm
in
like
the
around the
cold.
corner. Yeah, they're just like in their garage, like rocking out, practicing. And one day they just like stopped playing and they like opened the garage door and they all kind of like poked their heads around the side and they're like, you don't have to stand out there all the time. Like you can come in and hang out and like listen to us play or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Uh, and I like had like obviously ran home and I was like, Mom, can I go hang out with the kids
Dude,
across the
that's
street or whatever? And she's like, yeah, sure, why not?
yeah. Wow. They like if they just pulled the dick move card and were just like get out of here, like
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't have be doing this podcast, honestly. Like little moments like that really matter, especially when that you're at that young age of
Yeah, and
yeah.
then they just like they're like, "Hey, we're having a show like I know a couple blocks over, whatever. Like you should come check it out." And it was like back when that band, The Contortionists, was like a deathcore band, and they played in like just like a bunch of really really sick like Indiana metalcore bands at the time.
Right.
And that was like the like kind of like shreddy like Kill Switch Engage like as I lay dying era of music. So I was just like mind blown. Kids were like spin kicking at this show, and I was just like this tall.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I just started going to shows all the time, like any show that I could possibly find on like MySpace or like through those guys next door, or like whatever. And then that slowly just turned into like from metalcore into like more hardcore bands were like playing metalcore shows, or like hardcore dudes would come in and they'd like be like, you seem cool, like you want to come to this hardcore show after the metalcore show's over.
Mm.
And yeah, so now I'm just stuck here, I guess.
Yeah, but that is crazy. Just visualizing you with like 10 coats on, just like freezing in that Midwest winter weather. But
Oh yeah.
you're like, I need to understand these breakdowns and these feedback in guitars and blast beats. That's very, very
Yes.
interesting. So no, I think that paints a really good picture as far as like, those small moments that we see when we're at shows and we see someone who's like a little bit younger, like those moments can build and make people become the next giant hardcore photographer or the giant next hardcore vocalist. So no, that's very very
Hmm.
cool. So obviously, like you are, I would say, one of the top creatives in the hardcore space as far as not only doing photos, video, but like kind of everything in between. And I definitely want to touch on some of the, I guess, your approach to some of the like the branding and planning for some of these large scale videos that you've been working on.
Okay.
But I feel like knowing the origin of how you got into hardcore is just as important as knowing the origin on how you just got into video in general. So tell me, like, what was the first time you were exposed to picking up a camera and that first moment bringing it to a show and just making something?
Oh man. Uh, so I was always interested in like music and like music videos as a kid. Like I had like a bunch of like DVDs of like Good Charlotte like music videos, and they had like a live thing at like Brixton Academy, and I would just literally get home from school every day and like watch those live DVDs. And like my parents were always into them too, so I like had like Rush and like Metallica and ACDC and like all these bands that I would just like watch their live sets, and I was like more interested in like being the guy on the camera for a long time. Uh, but I think like something, I'm not really sure what happened, but I like had like a little like disposable camera when I was in middle school probably, and I just like loved taking photos of my friends and like whatever we were doing. Uh, and then in high school, I was like playing in a band, and the guitarist in my band traded me uh this like camera he was trying to sell for like a guitar or something, or
Oh,
like
okay.
whatever you do like that friends like trade shit for.
Right.
uh and I was just using it to like more document like stuff that we were doing. Like I'd just be like, at practice and like take pictures of like everybody else practicing, or like wherever we were going, or like what we were doing for the day, like hanging out just as friends. um and then that turned into like, oh, like maybe I'll take pictures of these like other bands that we're playing with at these like tiny local shows. And they weren't good photos by any means, because I didn't have like any equipment. It's just like a shitty like starter DSLR and like no flash, like
Right.
grainy as hell. Like I didn't know how to edit, so I just took everything in black and white.
Right.
uh and then I think I like more got into it like through that. Like my band really wasn't doing much, and I was like getting more known for taking photos of the bands that my band was playing with
Mhm.
than like what like anything that we were doing. uh I went to college for a year and kind of like slowed down, but I would like skip stuff to like go shoot other bands.
Yeah.
Like somebody would be like, "You want to come to the show and like shoot my band or whatever?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I have a final day." And they're like, "We'll give you $20." I'm like, "Okay, I'm out." Like,
Yeah.
fuck school.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It was like a slow progression. Just slowly like started caring more and more,
Right.
and like cared more about taking photos of my friends and making them look nice, or like my friends' bands, or like they'd be like, "Oh, Eric has a camera. Like we need promos, like or a promo to put on our Facebook page. Like let's go."
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's you bringing that up is just having that first camera and just using that in a sense to kind of document what you guys were doing, just because you wanted a copy of that or something, some kind of memory or memento to look back on. Same thing for
Mhm.
me. I had a Flip Ultra HD, and any show one of my bands would play, I'd like set it up in the back of a room and just record our entire set. Not in the sense like now where it's like I'm filming bands and want to archive those and post it on the YouTube channel. It was literally for like looking at how we were playing songs and how the crowd was reacting. I remember specifically we were playing this tiny ass Manitoba town, and my bass player had like jokingly pushed me, and I like almost fell off the stage. And I watched that back so many times, like when I was a kid, just because I thought it was so like funny that I had captured this like almost like fatal crash during my
Oh
band's
yeah.
performance. But I think those were seeds that were planted to kind of understand the whole dynamic and value that comes with like documenting and just like capturing stuff. Um, did you find it kind of difficult when you were playing in that band? You're like, oh, like I'm taking photos of all these other bands, but were you handing off your camera for other people to shoot stuff and you would edit it, or you just, I guess we're not having any photos, or if someone else snaps some pics?
Yeah, like here and there, I would like just like know that some other kid that we were hanging out with had like used a camera before, and I'm like, don't break this. Just like take one sick picture of my band for the love of God.
Yeah. Just to be like, yeah, this is from yesterday versus like, yeah.
Yeah, so that was always like kind of fun and interesting to see like what other people saw me doing or like what I looked like when I was doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that was it was like the slow decay of me playing music and me like confiding in my camera and documenting even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't know kind of where you're at now with like thoughts of playing some music, because it was kind of the same for me. I was like playing in bands, but also filming. It was kind of like a 50-50. And then when I moved out to Calgary and I was filming a lot more, it was like I kind of took a break from playing in bands, and then only recently was like, I need to be on the other side of this lens and just have fun doing what I like to do, just in hardcore in general. But it is this constant battle of like, is there someone who's semi competent to like at least hold the camera and focus it during, I'm not asking you to do these crazy Hey 5.6 whip pans or anything, but like just make sure it's recording and not completely out of focus.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Man, yeah, those the kids that like I played music with now like back when I was a kid are like all in like sick ass bands now.
Okay.
Uh like our drummer and guitarist, they're in this band called We Love You, and they're like the most beautiful like twinkly like I don't want to say emo even though it's like really sad music.
Okay.
Uh
Break it down, just sad
but
music.
man, it's just so damn good. Yeah, and it's just like so beautiful. And then uh Trey, who was the vocalist in my band, he does like Mouth for War now, which is like
Oh,
was Bruise or yeah. So and
crazy.
now it's like I'm like doing videos for like my friends that like I used to be in a band with. And like every time I get to see them, we're just like, damn, we kind of escaped the cornfield. And it's kind of sick.
Escape the cornfield. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really funny. So yeah, fast forwarding a little bit, you're probably most known in the space as far as going on tour with a number of different bands, to create kind of content for them. And I think there's going to be a fair amount of people who are listening or watching to this podcast that either aspire to do that or they have done that kind of pre-COVID and all that
Mhm.
stuff. What was your kind of, was it just kind of a happy accident where you were taking photos, but then you also experimented with video and, bringing you out on the road, was kind of like you could hit on both points versus like, well, we know this other guy, but he's only video, and we know this other guy, but he's on or she's only photos. Did you kind of strategize it to be like, I'm just going to be a one-stop shop for anything content-wise for hardcore bands?
Oh man. For a long time I was like kind of scared to do video because I'd just been taking photos so much.
Sure.
And also the first camera that I had didn't even have like a video capability. It was like only a photo camera.
Okay.
Um, and so it wasn't until I was in college that I like got a new camera and I was like, oh, I can do video stuff now. Like I can at least try it. Uh, and it was still really weird. Like one of the first, if not the first videos that I did was the first time I went to Canada with the band Church Tongue, which is my roommate's band. Uh, I filmed a bunch, and my computer like got smashed while I was in Canada,
Oh
and I didn't
no.
have anything to edit on. And so like I just gave him all the footage and he like figured out how to edit himself. And like
Dude.
or like one of the other videos that I did was like just happened to be like clips that my friend like gave me a GoPro on like a weekender and he's like, "Can you just like film some stuff when you're taking photos?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I still didn't have like a working computer, so I like borrowed somebody's MacBook with iMovie and like put it together in like one day and it's like so garbage.
Yeah. That's
But yeah, after that I kind of just like I kind of started working around other people that were doing video. Like I was touring with this band that was on Victory Records, and like I was just there to do like some art stuff and like take photos and like do behind the scenes stuff. And they were like filming music videos, and like me like meeting some of those guys like working on that set, and they were like, "You could do this. Like we see it in your work. Like you could do like sick video stuff." And I was like, "Okay," and just kind of started like picking it up and trying and looking at my old videos. They suck, but it's still like a stepping stone.
yeah. Yeah, you don't get better by like just like buckling up and just harnessing this energy to like release it into your next video. It's all about doing, it's all about just outputting stuff and learning from past work. So
Yeah, it's like not like mistakes. It's like accidents or like things that you learn that help you grow because like you have to learn by doing with art.
yeah.
I don't think you wake up one day and you're just like magically good at something. Like you have to work towards it.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's great about like just documenting in general is that you do see that lead up, as far as just like, here's content that I put together in 2015, and here we are 5 years later, and it's like like you mentioning like,
Yeah,
oh, I didn't know how to edit photos and I did everything in black and white. Like I feel like some of your photos, as far as like just the colors and the balancing of things, is like definitely, I think, something within your normal style now, but you wouldn't have
yeah,
got there without like just it's just work. It's just the grind.
yeah. Like just learning new stuff, like trying weird things in Photoshop over and over again, or like getting new programs so I don't have to like I don't know get wrecked every time I try to edit something in like a shitty program.
Yeah. So speaking of that, are you like an Adobe Suite guy, or do you have some hidden gem like video editing software or anything to manipulate? What's the behind the scenes on the post production side of that?
I'm an Adobe Suite guy, but it's been really, really bogging me down lately. Uh, I had to like I downloaded all like the new 2020 stuff
Hmm.
because I was like, oh, this like looks like it'll be sick, or like it's telling me I need to do it or whatever. And it is just like absolute garbage and cannot run anything. So I like went back to Premiere like 2018.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a piece of advice a fellow videographer gave me, is like, before you just delete your like always keep old versions, because the newest one that they drop could just change everything interface wise, and then you're just like hating yourself that you deleted 2019. Um, just to have the option to go back is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I didn't get rid of it completely because yeah, the new one like I didn't have any like of my presets and like it was like super laggy. Like I couldn't do any playback like no matter how like low the resolution was. It just was like so stressful. I just had to do a project actually where I had to download it again because it was like a collaboration project and the,
Oh, and they were
the guy who
using
started
2020.
it.
Yeah. Oh,
And so it's like I had to like download 2020 to open the file and I was like, fuck.
you're like, well, I guess we're stuck in this madhouse.
Yeah.
Um, So to speak on some of the most recent work you've done, I think the latest thing, as far as the time we're recording this podcast, is that Boundaries music video that you put together, and
Yes.
very very great job. There's that one shot that you shared on Instagram that's like, it's it's just, there's like no cuts for like 6 seconds, just because it's like
Yeah.
flying around, and I was like, that it was just so captivating. Aside from like your normal like metalcore or death metal music video where everything's like there's so many cuts
Mhm.
to make it seem like energetic. So talk to me about like some of that creative process for you. Like how are you directing the band to like be that energetic so you can get those just call it money shots?
Man, well, with Boundaries, it was super easy because one, I love that band. That new record is phenomenal. I've been working with them like on other stuff for it. Um, and I know that Matt uh, is a very emotive person, their vocalist, and he's very expressive. And like his lyrics are very emotional. Um, and I kind of just was like, "Tell me how you feel," or like, "Show me how you feel."
Mm.
Uh, and at this like we filmed like that entire ending breakdown all in like one big take because I was like I want to see like whoever this character is that you're talking to or like whatever you want to get across, like I need you to get it across to me and everybody watching.
Ah, I see. Cool.
um yeah, so I think like a big thing with music is already telling you how somebody feels, and it's like a written expression, or a spoken expression, I guess. And I want to be able to convey whatever emotion is coming out of that music through my video.
Yeah, because I think there has been videos that I've done for local bands here where I'll send it to people just to get feedback, and then it's like, um, the video's great. The drummer doesn't look like he's having a great time, which is like very unexpressive. So I'm always like trying to find those hacks to like, okay, I know like it might be just weird in the sense like it might be your very first time doing a video, but like
Mm.
you're performing like like you're performing at a 4 and I need you at like an 11. So trying to
Yeah,
bridge that gap is a huge challenge from a director's point of view.
yeah. I think that that's a good way to tell like talk to people is just be like, this is exactly like you need to be showing me how you want your music to come off
Yeah.
to other people.
Yeah.
Like how you feel playing it and how you feel listening to it is how you should be looking when you're playing it.
Yeah. And that's always been a thing, even just playing music live in general. It's like I've always just wanted to have, I guess, like, I don't want to say stage presence, but just like how I perform my music to match the 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 vibe of the entire like band that we're actually doing. And like that,
Mhm.
I feel like people notice that more than just like the person that stands there and doesn't really is kind of
Yeah. Like I get it if it's
statue.
like super crazy, like complicated shit and you got to like focus,
Yeah.
but still like a lot of the bands that we're listening to and I'm like doing videos for, especially like even if it's like technical for a little bit, there's probably a breakdown in there somewhere. Like look fucking pissed during the breakdown. Like it's all you got to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like that's a huge point even just for me to be like, okay, how do you want people to feel? And then it's like kind of putting the onus on them a little bit more versus like making them feel bad because they're not looking as hard. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm like you're not ugly. I just need you to look better.
Yeah. um, as far as like maybe this is more of a general question, but I know with some bands you've kind of locked down like a couple music, not just like a one off kind of thing for a band. It's been like multiple multiple videos, designing merch and like kind of just kind of like paving a path of just the overall brand and strategy for like a certain album release. So is that something like the label or the band approaches you about, or do you pitch like, hey, like let's have everything tied together? Because it seems like majority of the bands that you're working with, everything feels cohesive. It's not like I watch a video that I really like, and then the merch drops. I'm like, there's always something that ties those things together.
Yeah. I don't know. For a minute, like when the term creative director was like being thrown around by everybody,
Right.
uh, I feel like that's like how I was kind of describing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I like collaborating with other people, but like for the most part, a lot of bands that I come in contact with are like, okay, here's our album, the music's sick. We don't know how to do anything else.
Right.
Like like they are the musicians and then they're like, okay, we need promos, we need like a video or two, and we like don't want it to look like weird or like disconnected. So I think I'm the like guy that all the ideas come into and I turn them into something that we can push out as a product. Because like that's what a lot of bands are at the end of the day is like you're pushing an idea, you're pushing a product, you're pushing something because you want the world to care, whether it be for emotional reasons or like money or whatever. Like you have to make people care to be successful.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of what I've been doing with a lot of these bands. Like I feel like I worked with Farials for a long time and they have good ideas. And I was like, from the beginning of me working with them, I was like, you guys are all nice looking dudes. You're a boy band now. And I was like, I'm gonna push you to be a boy band for like 2 years straight. And then you'll get all of the like the young kids and they'll come in, they'll buy all the merch, and then next album you'll become like the Moody Boy band, and we'll do all kinds of weird shit, and like nobody will really understand it, but they'll already be here, like they'll
Right.
already be with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Varials content that you put together, you guys dropped 4 or 3 music videos all at once, which is just crazy. Just like on the same day, like, yo, there's 3 videos. I'm like, wait, what? Like, did I miss something? It's like, nope, 3 all at once. Was
Yeah.
that post day pretty stressful for you as far as like making sure everything was aligned and
Um,
everything on the back end was working?
it was and wasn't because we had been planning all that stuff for like, oh god, most of the year beforehand because like they were in the studio in January, I think, February of that year, so last year. And they brought me out to the studio with them, and like they were still writing some of the songs, and they were still like putting it together, and like some of them they just had like instrumental demos or whatever. And I had like different ideas in my head of like um, what they wanted to achieve with the record. Uh, and I remember like Sean showing me like the POD Southtown video, uh,
Okay. Yeah.
and was like, "Hey, can you do this for my band?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So we just completely ripped it off for the Bleeding video. But like, I remember hearing like the Bleeding instrumental and like hearing the intro, and I was like, "This is the block party song. Like, this is the one where we take over a whole block in Philly and we just go fucking nuts all day."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, like, so this has got to be one of the singles." And then like while we were like putting the record in order or whatever, like all the songs, and I was like, this one has to be a single too. And then they're like, well, these two, like the singing songs, like we kind of want to put out. And I was like, let's just do them all this summer. Like whenever the record's done, we'll figure it out. And I had already like been taking photos in the studio and chosen like the color, like the blue color, and been putting out like all the stuff and like did that for months while we were touring and just kind of figuring stuff out. And then summertime came around and I just spent all of last summer in Philly. Like I couldn't figure out how to use the transit system at first because I'm real dumb. Uh, and like I like didn't like even realize that I could just like go on the train and get anywhere I wanted to. So I was walking like 10 miles a day like I would like just take my laptop and like whatever I could, and I would just like walk and like I was like going into businesses and being like, "Can I shoot a music video here?" Like,
Wow.
or like I had like one place that I was gonna do the bleeding video, and then they like bailed on me like 3 days beforehand, and I had like
Oh, okay.
invested like thousands of dollars into making sure this video went off,
Right.
and I had to like go across the street to the I think it was like an American Red Cross, and I was like, I looked like shit because I'd been like sweating, like walking all day in the Philly summer heat,
Yeah.
and I just like walked in to this place and went up to the desk guy and I was like, "Give me the phone number of the highest up person you can give me in the company." And he was like, "Uh, I'll have to like call some people or like email some people. Like, give me a minute." And then like a couple of phone calls and emails later, I was like talking to like the president of the American Red Cross, and he was like, "Yeah, like you can use the parking lot, like whatever. We love helping the community." And I was like, "Let's go."
Dude, that's crazy. So
Yeah, so we
so it
just
took being like in this high pressure, like I need to find a space for this video to just like hit block, like go block to block and just be like, can I shoot here? Can I shoot here? That's some
yeah,
like that's gangster. That's that's
yeah. It was
so
just
sick.
like it was like 3 months of intense planning,
Yeah.
where I was just like every day doing something to like benefit making the videos cooler.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then like maybe like a month of just like shooting everything, and then I had like a lot of time to just sit and like make them perfect and like send them to a million people and like take notes from 100 different people, making them as cool as I could.
Yeah.
And then like by the time that the drop came around, I had already like sent off all the final stuff, and I was like, okay, like I just gotta wait for them to come out. I hope people like it.
Yeah. So let's jam on the block, kind of like the downtown music video. So for those that haven't seen it, it's essentially like metalcore money on video. It's
Yeah,
all the various guys rolling in on a car and then playing this show to these kids in the middle of a parking lot essentially. And you had like a huge crane and all these crazy shots. So tell me about like the shooting process that day. What was like the most stressful thing that was happening? Were you guys kind of like, are the cops gonna get called on us as far as just being out in the open, or what was going through your mind the most during that day?
oh man. uh so I like I said, I spent like 3 months planning that, like especially that day, um down to like the T. Like I was like getting people to rent the U-Haul to go pick up the stage for me, and then like getting people to like come with me in the middle of the night to like set up the stage so it was there in the morning when we came
Right.
back to film. Uh and thankfully I had my friend Dan White, who absolutely rules. Uh he's just like this cat out in Philly that is just like a good homie, and he works as a gaffer like professionally, and he does like crazy shit. He does like movies and like Netflix specials and like stuff. He's like their light guy. Uh and he just like had all these connections where he was just like, I worked on a cooking show with this guy that has a crane one time. And he's like, I think I have his email somewhere, and we just like found him and we were like, yo, can you come out for like 5 hours on this day or something? And he's just like, yeah, sure. Uh and like while we were setting up the stage the night before, like the ice cream man rolled by and we were like, yo, come back here tomorrow at like 2 p.m. and there'll be like 300 kids here that will buy your ice cream. And he's like, okay. Uh, and I called any kind of law enforcement for the first time in my entire life, uh,
Oh,
making
just
sure,
to be like, please, if you get a call,
yeah,
like
just ignore it.
yeah, just ignore. Jeez.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, like it's during like a weekend. It's not before like the
Quiet
yeah,
hours
like
or
quiet
whatever.
hours or whatever, and they're like, and you've already like you're on private property, so nobody can do anything to you.
Hmm.
But I had to like have like every kid that walked in there sign like 3 different waivers because it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like all those kids at the beginning of the video you see standing in a line, they're waiting to sign a whole plethora of paperwork.
They're
I
not in
had like,
line for their show. They're in line to sign papers for the music video.
yeah, like
That's
God
funny.
bless Kate and Haley and Peyton. They like just sat there all day at this table in like the blistering heat, like being like, okay, you have to sign here to make sure that if you get hurt, you can't sue Varials, Fearless Records, Errick Easterday, the American Red Cross, and here's this saying that you're allowed to be on camera, and here's this saying like we're allowed to like put you in on the internet, like,
Oh wow.
and I was like, oh my god, that was like one of those things that I found out about like a day before.
Oh, and you're just like, where can I print all like 300 times 3 for 3 different
Yeah,
papers? Oh man,
dude, it
that's
was a
crazy.
time. I
Yeah.
had like big binders full of shit from Kinko's. Like, I had like just fucking photocopied it like a million times, and I was like, "Here's a couple $100 for all the paper that I use." Like,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's yeah, like just seeing I think you shared some of the behind the scenes prior to the video coming out or the
mhm,
same day, but it was just I was like there seems like just I think you pulled it off as far as having this like out in the open show vibe, but it was like
mhm.
there's a lot of moving parts here that a lot of people for sure aren't seeing, but that's crazy on how that all
Oh
came
yeah,
together.
there was a lot of people. I like barely shot anything in that because it was like Crane guy, Dan did all like the slow mo like black and white stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Crust, I think is Christopher Young.
Oh, okay.
Uh, good guy. He did like a bunch of the VHS stuff. He did like all the behind the scenes. I just like gave him my VHS and I was like, go film stuff all day.
Yeah.
Uh, and then my friend Kurt Fowles like did like all the drone stuff and like the drum cams and like there's just so many people that I like had like walkie talkies. And I was like, all right, can we please get the crane to move up like 2 feet? Like,
Yeah. Damn. So like going back to the whole like, you know, working with bands and kind of trying to see every corner of an album's release and doing all that. That's a lot of like trust that a band has to give to really anyone, whether it's you, me, or anyone else. But what do you think is the biggest benefit for a band to approach a creative in their local scene, whether they do video photos and kind of like y- like like what Varials or other bands have done, like brought you in a little closer, almost being like a unofficial member of the band to help
mhm.
share your thoughts and insights on how things should be dropped.
Well, my biggest thing is I don't think anybody in the world has ever bought anything without hearing about it from a friend, seeing an advertisement, or seeing it in a store. Uh, and for the most part, with everything being digital now, you are not going to see a band in a store. So, like, that's gone.
Yeah.
Uh, and, like, you can tell somebody to listen to a band 100 times and they're never going to see it. Like, they're never going to listen to it. Like, you could, tell somebody to go listen to this, like, cool hardcore band, like one of your friends, even, and they're going to, like, there's a pretty solid chance that they're going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out sometime and never think about it again.
Yeah.
So that leaves an advertisement, and advertisement is all about image. I mean, you can hear like a radio or like a podcast, like the audio of something and be like, that sounds cool, or hear something on audio and be like, that sounds cool. But like for the most part, you're on your phone all day, you're watching TV, you're watching something, you're on your computer, and you are more than likely, or you're more likely to check out a band if you see something cool from them.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what I do is make sure bands look cooler than they actually are most of the time. I'm like, I'm not fucking cool. Like, I'm just some dork that like sits on my computer all day, but like if you come to me, like I can make your band look sick and people are gonna see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's a huge value piece there as far as just like just because you put a lot of work and effort into these songs and all and even just the album artwork, it's
Hmm.
it's not guaranteed that everyone is as soon as you post it gonna a see it, but also give it the time of day. Half of the time it's just day trading attention with social media and
Hmm.
different outlets to just put it in front of people and hopefully that they're in a space to check it out. And sometimes they aren't, and that's where the whole like putting out lots of content so there's multiple chances to hit people, whether you get someone to listen to your music on the first or the ninth time that they hear, see, or listen to a snippet of your band.
Yeah, and like my advice to bands is if you see somebody creative that you enjoy, like try to work with them, give them a chance because like I wouldn't be anywhere that I am now without people giving me a chance. Like Forever at Last, Church Tongue, Left Behind, like Varials, like all these bands that just took a chance, like taking my dumb ass out on the road sometime. Uh, I think like benefited the both of us a lot, and I think that's sick. And I think more kids. I mean, like everybody and their cousin is a photographer right now, but like if you see something that interests you, like go for it because like it'll be worth it to your band in the long run.
Yeah. I think like bands that actually give a fuck about the the image and the advertising and kind of what separates the boys from the men, or the girls from the women. It's just you can clearly tell when someone's like approach someone, and like half the time people like you or I, or even just like other photographers, aren't looking to make all this like crazy money off of stuff. Like we recognize like budgets for hardcore and metal music are far lower if Post Malone or any big rap artist or even country artist like
Yeah.
was approaching you to make content around a certain album. But I think like you said, it's if you see someone that you like and they're local to you and you feel like you have a little bit of a relationship with them, you know, trying that out for an album and just seeing like, hey, let's bring in Eric, let's bring in Spencer, let's bring in Cassandra, whoever it is,
Mhm.
to just like help bring that album just to the next level on an advertising standpoint. Because like you said, like that's how you get your people to care about your stuff and then hopefully listen to it or buy merch or this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Like genuinely. Like I mean when I was even in high school and like through college, I guess, Left Behind like isn't even from here. They're from West Virginia and they would come through Indiana like all the time. And every time they stopped, they'd be like, "Oh, like sick, you're here again. Like, I hope you're like gonna take more photos or whatever." Because I just do it for free back then because I was just like a kid.
Yeah.
But I would always like joke with them and be like, while we were like kind of becoming friends, every time that they came through, we would hang out or whatever. I'd be like, "You gonna take me on tour sometime or what?" And then whenever I was in college, like when I was like almost done with that first year, they were like, "Hey, remember how you used to always joke about coming on the road with us? We actually want you to." I was
Yeah.
like, "Cool, let's go."
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, just not like asking, like sometimes it's up. Every situation is different, but sometimes just straight up asking bands or just like putting it in their ear, like, yeah, if you got a spot in the van, even though there's no shows for a while yet, like
Yeah.
I'm it's those relationships where someone will be like, hey, we're doing some crazy touring in 2021, do you want to come through and do stuff? And like, I got nothing in my calendar, so let's do it.
Yeah. Or even it could even be just like ideas. You could just be like, listening to a band that you like that might be like kind of close by, and you're like, damn, like this like photo shoot would look cool with them, or like, like this design or whatever. You could literally just be like, yo, I have this like, you could message them, be like, yo, I have this sick idea. Like, would you guys want to like hang out sometime and like do this photo shoot or like whatever? Like, I've been wanting to do this, even if it's like not for money. Like, doing that kind of stuff helps, and it helps get your foot in the door for anything. Because like that's what I was doing. Like, people would be like, oh, like I need a promo, and I'm like, I have a camera, or like I would like see bands that I like that would come through on tour. I'm like, yo, can I like get a picture of all you guys like outside of the venue or like around the corner or something? And they'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think like not rushing to like call it monetizing every action that you do from a creative
Yeah,
standpoint is huge. Like just give and give and give and then when you feel like you're at a position that you can ask, you can do that, but don't expect, oh, well, I did all this, because then it's like, oh, now the giving had expectation to it. I'm a firm believer. I think that's a great way, just being like, what band doesn't want like a not only live picks, but also like, hey, like let's get the 3 4 5 of us outside of the venue. There's this cool brick wall, and this kid wants to do it for free. Let's just give them the time of day. So
yeah, exactly. And like the first few tours that I did, like I didn't make any money. I like like the first few tours I did were like they were paying for my food and giving me money when they could, kind of thing. uh, which was sick. Or like they would just, whenever they got like a buyout from a venue or whatever, they'd be like, "Oh, here's like $10, like go eat for the afternoon or whatever," and I'd be like, "Okay, sick." And it was like a lot of that at the beginning. It wasn't until like way later that I was like, on tour with a band, and like that band was paying for my food or whatever, and then I'd hit up the other bands on the package and be like, "Yo, like, you see all the stuff I'm doing for them? I could do it for you for like, I don't know, like $100 for the rest of the tour," and they'd be like, "Okay, sure." Like, what is that? Like 5 T-shirts? And I'm like, "Yeah, like let's go."
yeah, no, I think that's, you know, hardcore bands talk all the time about earning your stripes while you're on the road early on, but I think
Mhm.
as a creative and wanting to be within that band aspect, there's some stripes to be earned in that regard. And I think just giving, if you have an agreed thing with a band and you're trying to like really like make this a thing for you, always going that step beyond, if they're like, oh, like if you agree to like, let's say 25 photos a night, try and give them 50, just like always,
Yeah.
going a step ahead of that. Well, Eric, we're kind of at the end of the pod here. Two more questions. Obviously, is there anything coming up that you want to tease people, or like just let it be known that there's either some new videos that you're working on, or just like a bigger project that you've been in the midst of?
Oh yeah. I Today a new Boundaries video is coming out.
Oh,
I didn't do all of it.
okay.
That was like the collab project that I was talking about earlier, where homie was using the Premiere 2020. Shout out Peter. Uh, he is a sick ass like 3D animator.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Cool.
so that's like I think it literally came out while we were on the Zoom call.
Did it come up on YouTube? I'm just gonna look it up. Like someone could be listening
It,
to this in a week and it's already
oh man, I think it's on a website right now, but I think it comes on like streaming and everything tonight sometime.
okay. I'll check it out later. But
Yeah.
that's so funny.
But there's that. The Boundaries record is phenomenal. There's like more stuff that we're gonna do with that. Um, I'm shooting another video for Chamber this weekend, so that'll be out eventually. Um, and I think that's kind of it. Like I have other videos that I'm like working on, or like bands I'm working with. Like I'm doing a couple like little video things for that band Purity.
Oh, okay.
Um, like a new metal band from I think Vegas,
Okay.
but I think I'm just like just starting to work with them, but they're really sick and their music is badass because love new metal. So, uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just like trying to fill up my schedule as much as I can with stuff. Like, I feel like the next month or two is gonna be me filming like one video a week
Yeah, crazy.
and try to take some of the winter off because I'm driving myself insane.
Yeah, breaks are just as important as the grind and the hustle.
Mhm.
Eric, the last portion of this podcast that we always hit on is a favorite Mosh story off the top of your head. So it doesn't need to necessarily be something that you did or someone did to you at a show. Just whatever's first to your mind is kind of how we end things here.
Oh man, favorite Mosh story. That's a hard one. Um, either
You can share two if that's easier for you.
yeah. One that I like was just me and just like a fun experience for myself. I did Warp Tour like the last like full country one, and I love Every Time I Die, and I would just watch their set every single day, like from the side of the stage with my mouth wide open. Uh, and then there was like one day where it was just like pouring rain. There was a huge thunderstorm, and they like kicked everybody out of the fairgrounds,
Oh,
and they like, brought everybody back in like later in the day, but it was still like just pouring rain. And I just remember like moshing harder than I ever have before ever, in like the pouring rain, like completely soaking wet to like one of the last times that I've gotten to see Every Time I Die. So that was sick. And then I guess the other time would be there's a video of it of Varials playing in Minneapolis the day that our tour got canceled because of COVID,
oh, okay.
and like all of us are just doing like stupid stuff the whole time, like people like jumping off of the stage with like potted plants from the green room, and like people have like cowboy hats on, and like everybody's shirtless. Like
Wow.
it just like so many things because we had just learned that the tour was like over,
Yeah.
and it was like the last song of the set, and I think everybody was just like, okay, it's time to do everything that we wanted to do for the entire tour right now.
Right. And probably like good that you went that wild because of okay, this is actually the last time that we're like getting crazy at a show for who knows how long. So it's just double down on the crazy.
Yeah, it was a good time though.
Yeah.
Miss those days, the good old days.
The good old days. Eric, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast. I am a huge fan of yours since the get, like I mentioned at the beginning, and you know, I learned a lot in this podcast, and I hope other people who are creatives got a little something, and bands as well to kind of think about like you know future releases, especially during this weird time of like no shows and
Hmm.
finding a new and adaptive way to release their music in and get people excited about it. How do people follow you on social media? Anything that you want to shout out here before we say goodbye?
Oh, yeah. I mean, thanks for having me on. Uh, love hanging out with you as always.
Of course.
And I mean, my at on everything is Easter X Daily. It's Cash App. Send me $1.
Send this man, send this man that dollar. Working very hard. Yeah, I hope that we get to cross paths real soon in the future, whether it's me coming down for LDB Fest or you coming up for some tour in Canada with just very grateful that we have been able to cross paths and chat hardcore and creative shit and everything in between.
Oh yeah, man.